And in that vein and in that light, I'm going to be talking tonight about going back to some of the fundamentals, but not the surface level basics, not the stuff that, you think you know. I want to go over the fundamentals that make a difference between a contractor who fights for scraps and one who prints money with hopefully clarity and confidence. And so that's what I'm going to go over today. Everybody wants advanced tactics. Everybody wants secrets. But in contracting, the problems that destroy your margin, your time, your sanity almost always come from a fundamental that wasn't done correctly or that was done incorrectly. That is a true statement in contracting. Everything comes back to blocking and tackling. And advanced concepts are very important, but all advanced concepts is extrapolations that are rooted in fundamentals like contract and project management, etc. We could get advanced by extrapolating from those very basic fundamentals. But when something goes wrong, it's because there was a fundamental that wasn't done correctly. So tonight, I want to talk about tightening the screws on the basics that run the business. Okay, so I want to go over, and I think this is beneficial for everybody, even though some of it might be fundamental, especially for Haley right now, what she's doing, and Nathan. Let's start with reading the contract like a deal maker. The root word of contractor is contract. You are contracted to do something. Okay? The fundamental is the contract. So in construction, as you guys know, before you touch a shovel, before you send in a screw, before you think about markup, your profit is already won or lost on paper first. It's already won or lost on paper. There are 5 clauses I want to bring out tonight that I think 95+% of contractors never read properly. Okay? The first clause is the general conditions hierarchy. Who controls what? If you don't understand hierarchy, you don't understand leverage. Okay? Who controls what on the contract? Who owes a deliverable to whom, et cetera, et cetera. Like float in a schedule, so to speak. Who owns the float on a project? Who owns the float on the project? Come on, Dan. Okay, who knows what float is?
I might have a different term. I'm not positive what the float is.
Okay, well, this is a construction term, man.
I got you. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so float is the amount of time in a schedule. So if an owner says, we need to redesign this, in the interim, based on your schedule, there's some float on this. I know you're supposed to be doing it on Tuesday, but we're going to wait 2 weeks because you got 2 weeks of float in the schedule. Waiting 2 weeks is not going to make the job late. In the interim, you could go and do stuff over here or go and do this. This happens on every project in every model of contracting. That buffer of time is called the float. It's called the float. And the person that owns the float is always the owner. The contractor does not own float because the contract is with the owner, right? Float is a general conditions hierarchy. Most contractors will say, this is my schedule. This is how I have it planned. And this is how it's going to be. And it's not really true. Not in a court of law, not per the contract. The float always goes to the owner. So an owner or an owner's rep, a CM, they can direct you to do other work. Now, your recompense, your compensation for that is, well, because you guys are moving me around like chess pieces, my work is massively inefficient because I have no continuity in work. And because I don't have continuity in work, I have a morale degradation. I have efficiency drop off. You now have to compensate me for that. By the way, if you guys read the Tolman Island claim in the contracts and legal folder, the entire claim is about that. I don't have continuity of work because I have all these change orders, and you guys have me working 2 days here, 3 days here, 2 days here, 2 days here. My men start work, stop it, start work, stop it, start work, stop it. I have no continuity. I did not bid the job that way. I can't now make any money that way. Yes, you own the float, and you can direct me to do that, and I will go and do it. But remember, at the end, I'm going to have to be compensated for inefficiency and morale degradation. Because if I have a team working on something and then I have to pull that team off and put them on something else, then they're going to start that and stop that and get pulled over here. And then they have to come back and pick up where they left off. What would be a 5-day task, if you add up the time of what we did, is really now a 9-day task. You owe me fucking 4 days of labor. Because everybody knows when you stop something, you got to go back to the beginning and go, okay, what did I do? Okay, we did this. We pulled the pipe here. It's not just like I just show up, have all the historical knowledge. My guys pick up like a robot from where they left off last. It doesn't work that way, right? So that's one of the examples where general conditions hierarchy of things, understanding who controls what, is very important. So you don't put up unnecessary fights, but you let them know where you're going to have to be compensated if they pull the trigger and decide to move you around like a chess piece. This is your expertness, okay? Order of precedence is another thing in a contract that I think most contractors don't get. What governs when drawings differ from the specs? This is where scope gaps go to hide. This is where you identify them. Where there's a difference between a spec, which is what Haley's looking at now, and a drawing. Which one holds the precedence? This is going to be a fight that you always have. Your spec says I need to do this, but the drawing says I need to do this. So which one do I have to do? Which one am I going to bid? Which one is a change order? Which one isn't? The order of precedence. The order of precedence is always going to be where? Where, guys? We've talked about this before. Where do you think the precedence is in specs and drawings? Anybody want to take a stab? Fucking murdering you guys here on the fundamentals. Okay, so this is the drawings. We are always going to bid the fucking drawing. Okay, and the drawing holds precedent. You can have something in a spec that it completely is irrelevant to the drawing. I'm not putting that in the bid. Why? Because there's no installation for it in the drawing. Okay, if you just want it as a piece of material, then it would be noted in the specs that this is just a procurement item. It's not an installation item. Okay, what's on drawings are installation items. That's what we do for a living. We're installers of things. We don't design shit. We install everything. We're installers. I'm going to install this. If you want it as a procurement item, it's got to be a procurement item. I'm not just going to fucking buy a bunch of light poles and shit like that, and the drawings show that there's no goddamn lights that go there. Okay? If the drawing says there's no lights, I ain't bidding a light install. I don't care what your spec says. Now, if you want the lights installed, then you got to give me a change order, revise the drawings. I don't do drawings. I do installation, right? Hammer that as a contractor. I can't read the mind of the designer. I'm not the designer. I don't hold the license for design. I don't hold the liability insurance. I'm not a fucking designer. I'm a fucking installer. So whatever's related to installing shit, that's what I do. And where there's a scope gap in between, that's your headshot change order. Bang. That's where you're going to identify your change orders. Your change orders are going to be identified in the difference between what the drawing reflects and what your specifications reflect. Capiche? Okay. Next thing, schedule obligations. Schedule obligations per the contract. Liquidated damages, float, milestones, phasing. If the schedule owns you, okay, then the owner owns you. And you can't have that. You need to own that schedule as much as you possibly can. So you must understand phasing of the projects, understand your milestones, understand the float on the schedule and who owns it, which is why I've told everybody, and AJ knows this, I've told everyone, when you create a schedule, make sure the schedule goes all the way out to the contract date. Never show it earlier. Because if you show it 2 or 3 weeks earlier, even though the contract says you got 2 weeks, they got a 2-week float that they're going to jam down your throat. They're going to hold you up. They're going to do exactly what I said. Don't do this. We're going to figure out these countertops. In the meantime, fucking go over here. Okay, that doesn't help you, no way. You're going to give them a contract schedule from the date of contract to the end of the contract period, and you're going to have the CPM where you cannot miss a day. 0 float, motherfucker. 0 float. If you stop me at all on this project, I have no float to give you. You will have to give me a what? If they give you a change order and add time and there's no float on the schedule, what do they have to give you?
They're going to give you a change order.
What is the change order going to be for?
Extension of time.
Extension of time.
Yeah.
They're going to have to give you a time extension on the contract. Now, you might have float built in. You got 15 days for this. You know it's going to take you 5. So what? Show them 15. Let them come back to you and say, that's not going to take 15 days, dude. A homeowner's never going to do that. A construction manager, Haley, is going to do that all day to you. When you submit that schedule for that bathroom, they're going to look at that and go, no, there's no way that that's going to take 2 weeks. That's a 5-day activity, because what are they trying to do? Steal your float. So it's like the games are inverted when you do the 2 different types of work. So that's one of the cons, is that you're going to be with sharp people looking at all your shit. Well, on the homeowner side, they don't even fucking know what they're looking at. So show them. I don't have any float. I mean, I got a pubic hair to make this job on time. You cannot get in my way. I will deliver this contract dead or in a coma. I will finish this schedule. But if you interrupt this any bit, you're going to have to give me an extension of time. And dependent upon the interruption, there obviously will be monetary associations. You can't say damages to them. You could say damages in your world, Haley. Can't say damages in the other world. You got to say like a monetary association. This way you stay in control. So this is something that I believe most contractors, not the guys in this call, but 95% of the contractors missed and just totally don't understand. These are fundamentals of project management. The next thing that I think is missed, number 4, is scope gaps and exclusions. Okay? When I taught the estimating portion of this course in contractor school, the first thing I said is, when you take off your materials and you're looking at the drawings and you're looking at the specs and taking materials off, you're taking drawings off for labor, the number one thing you do is you write down first what you don't do. The stuff you do, you know how to do. You're going to take the drawings off and do that appropriately. But a lot of times we get jammed up on stuff that we didn't say and exclude in our bid. Dan, I know you've been there. Okay, I don't do this. I'm not going to do this type of work, etc. I can't just this is an exclusion. If you want this, we have to do a change order. We have to do X, Y, especially if you're self-performing. There's shit that we don't do. Okay, I've used this example before. Like, I won't paint pipe. I won't paint pipe. Okay, so if I do the installation and they're expecting this sprinkler pipe to be red, I'm not fucking painting that shit. Okay? You want that painted, you have to pay me a change order to do that, because I have to go get a sub who's a painter to come in and who knows how to paint pipe. My journeyman, my people are not fucking painting pipe. So the first thing I'm doing is what I'm excluding. I don't paint pipe. I don't do this. We don't do that. We don't do that. We're going to do all this per the drawing A, B, drawing E1, E2, E3, E4, E5, and the specs, and then here are my exclusions. This is something that may not be such a big deal for you, but it is something that you must know. It's a fundamental. What matters more than what you do is what you actually don't do. Because if you get caught having to do the things that you don't do, this is where you end up bleeding out, and this is where you start working for free. Okay? The next massive fundamental in contract that most contractors just completely ignore is the notice provisions of the contract. This is the silent killer of your change orders. If you miss the notice, you lose the right to recover, period. Haley, you're going to read that in your contract. If you don't notice us of delay or notice us of a change order within 48 hours, then you lose your right to the change order. Okay? So if you ever think about the last job you lost money on, okay, ask yourself, which one of the 5 of this list that I just rattled off did we miss or did we not implement appropriately? Because there will be some tie to one of these fundamentals. Every mistake in contracting is predictable once you know where to look. Every mistake in this business is a predictable mistake. Is a place, and it comes from an area that we know and we're aware of. That's why it's so important to be strong on your project management, because project managers are like goalies in hockey. They're stopping these rapid fire deflected pucks that come out of nowhere, but they're tied to the fundamentals. General conditions hierarchy, who controls what? Order of precedence, what governs when drawings differ from the specs? Schedule obligations, liquidated damages associated with schedule and time, float on the project and how that's being manipulated and used against you, your milestones, either for payment or delivery purposes, and the phasing of the project and the sequence of that phasing. We want to have phasing in our schedules, because if they make us deviate from the phasing, they're going to have to pay in some manner. I have a documentation that my phase is this, phase is this, phase is this, phase is this. If you have me working on this phase and then pull me off and have me going on this other phase, I'm now working out of sequence. I sent you this schedule. You approved the schedule. Now you're making me work out of sequence due to no act, cause, or obligation of me, the contractor, whatsoever. So any negative that comes that I have to incur from that is going to get passed through to you. Phasing is very important because it's another tool to show that you're forcing me to work out of an approved schedule sequence. And approved schedule sequences are needed for continuity and efficiency. Now, there's only so many of these bullets you can shoot in the private realm, but in the public realm, you can load these up in a machine gun and shoot them all at one time. But in the private realm, it still fucking applies to you. Okay? Now, you may say, Marshall, well, my client doesn't have pockets for all that. Fine. That's totally fine. I get it. I'm sympathetic to it. All I'm saying is mention it. Let it be a deterrent. Let them know that this is going to cost me. This is not the approved way. If anything, make them feel bad for doing it and get some moral points, but understand it and make your point. Okay? Don't get lost in, I want to treat these people so well, I'm just going to do every goddamn thing that they say, and at the end, I'm soulless. I have no money. I didn't make any money, and I'm fucked. Well, that would be dumb, right? Then we're letting ourselves get walked over. We have to have respect for ourselves and protect our company. And doing it in a manner that we still balance our customer service and keeping good relations to the best that we possibly can. As we all know, though, this business ends up adversarial. At the beginning of the job, it starts great. At the end of the job, you both hate each other. I mean, that's just how it always ends up. So if we know it's going to end up that way, shit, I'm going to get my licks in. Okay? I'm going to protect myself. Okay.